Welcome to the NeCTAR Research Cloud video tutorials. This tutorial will show you how to log into the dashboard and explain some of the settings that you need to do before you start launching your own computers in the cloud. To start with, we go to the NeCTAR homepage at nectar.org.au and click on the Research Cloud link. We can access the dashboard from the Enter Cloud Here button. I'd just like to point out the user guides and support link as well. This has lots of extra information if you get stuck. Let's start by clicking on Enter Cloud Here. This takes us to the Australian Access Federation login. From here, we can set up our login through our home institution. Select yours from the list. If you don't want to have to do this step every time, you can turn on the two checkboxes below. You'll then be prompted to enter your username and password from your local institution. This brings us to the Research Cloud dashboard. We start at the Overview tab, which shows us what VMs are running at the moment and how many CPUs we have available. If you're part of multiple groups, you can change between the groups up in the top right hand corner. I'm switching to my free use account. Here we can see the overview when I have a VM actually running. I'll use the term VM and computers in the cloud interchangeably. You can see that I have one core active, 4 GB of RAM and 30 GB of hard disk space currently. And down the bottom you can see my server usage summary. The next tab is the Credentials tab. The credentials are not important for basic use. They're only really used for people who want to access the more advanced settings via hybrid Fox and Yucca tools. So don't have to worry too much about this tab. The Instances tab show me all of the instances I have running at the moment. If this is your first time, you may not have anything in there yet. I have an ID for my machine, a name with a key. The key is listed underneath. Which groups, which security groups are being used, what the underlying image is, and the size of the machine, and the IP, and the state. I have several actions that I can perform on my VM at the end as well. The Images tab show me all of the images that are available. You can think of an image as a template OS that you can launch to create your own VM. This also includes snapshots. If we click on the snapshot, snapshots here are the snapshots you have created yourself. A snapshot is essentially a copy of a running VM that you can then either use for backup or use to create more copies of the VM that you have running. The next tab is key pairs. You can see I have a key pair here already, which I can add new key pairs. I can have many key pairs in here. I can import keys if I've created them from a local machine. I'm going to add a new key pair. The most important part of this step is saving the key pair somewhere sensible so that you'll be able to find it later. If I click Save, and put it, I'm going to put mine in my documents library. You can put it anywhere you need to, but it's just important that you know where you have put it so that you can get it later. You might create a separate folder if you want. The key pairs are essential in terms of accessing your VM via SSH later on. The key is injected into the VM as it's launched, and you can have a copy of that key or use a public key on your local machine to connect to it. So it's very important that if you want to maintain a secure, up-to-date system, you must have a key pair in place. The next important one is the security groups. You're given several default security groups, or prepared security groups, which allow for things like HTTPS and SSH. Security groups are designed to restrict the way people can access your machine. You, by default, want to make sure that only the ports that you absolutely need are open. I'm going to take you through actually creating your own security group. If you click Create Security Group, and I'm going to call this one Basic Rules, and I'm going to list the ports that I'm going to use, or the protocols that I'm going to use: SSH, HTTP, and HTTPS. Click Create Security Group. There's my security group. Now I can edit the rules. At the moment there are no rules, so I'm going to set up my SSH, which uses port 22, from 22 to 22, and the CIDR allows me to determine what I can restrict the subnet and IP ranges that can access my machine, my VM. In my case, I don't want to restrict it, so I'm going to put in 0.0.0.0/0 so that anyone anywhere can access my VM via port 22. Keep in mind that I'm putting other restrictions in. Basically it means I can access the machine from anywhere in the world. It doesn't mean that anybody can access it. It's only the location of the computer that they're using. The other ports I wanted to make available: port 80, and port 443. These are HTTP and HTTPS respectively. Now we can go back to the security groups. The last tab on the dashboard is the allocation request. Once you've used your free allocation and have determined what sort of extra resource or how long your project will go or whatever, you can access more resources by submitting an allocation request to NeCTAR. Completing this form will allow you to have longer term VMs and also larger resource allocation. So that's it. Hopefully you'll have all that you need to get started with VMs. In the next tutorial we'll talk about actually launching a VM and getting going. Thanks.